Underneath the ordinary internet most of us scroll through every day, the part with the search engines and the social feeds and the shopping carts, there is another layer the rest of the world rarely sees. It has no front door. You cannot find it by typing a question into a search bar, and you cannot stumble onto it by accident. You have to know it is there and how to reach it. For a strange, dizzying stretch of a few years, the most famous address in that hidden layer belonged to a single marketplace, a place where people quietly bought and sold things no normal store would ever dare to stock. Drugs mostly by the truckload, but also forged documents, stolen data, weapons, and far darker offers besides. People called it the everything store for things that were never supposed to be for sale. And the most astonishing part of the saga was not the catalog at all. It was the man behind the screen. He was not a hardened criminal. He was a polite, soft-spoken young man from a comfortable home, the sort of kid who had earned merit badges and studied science and left every teacher convinced he would do something good in the world. His friends would have laughed at the idea that he was a kingpin. And yet, working alone in a rented room, he built the engine that would move well over $1 billion in illegal trade, with nothing but a laptop, a stubborn ideology, and a belief that he was setting people free. To understand how he got there, you have to understand what he believed. He thought the government had no business telling grown adults what they could put in their own bodies. He would argue it at parties, at dinner tables, with anyone who would engage. If we ban one dangerous thing, he liked to say, then logically we should ban fast food and fast cars too, since both of those quietly kill people every year. To him, the perfect answer was not a war on anything. It was a marketplace with no rules, where buyer and seller simply found each other and the state was nowhere in sight. The problem, for a long time, was that such a marketplace was impossible to actually build. The moment money changed hands, there was a record. Banks remembered, cards remembered. Every payment left a trail leading straight back to a name. 2 pieces of technology changed that. The first was a browser, originally created so that intelligence and military users could pass messages without revealing who or where they were. It bounced your connection around the world until your real location dissolved into noise. The second was a new kind of digital money that could move from one person to another without a bank in the middle and without a name attached. When he discovered the second piece, something clicked. The vision he had been carrying around in his head was suddenly buildable, so he started building. He taught himself as he went, coding through long nights on very little sleep, unwinding by watching a television show about an ordinary man who slowly transforms into a drug lord. The irony of that choice would only become clear much later. When the site was nearly finished, he hit an obvious snag. A marketplace with nothing to sell is just an empty room. So he rented a quiet building, followed a beginner's guide, and grew his own first batch of product by hand. Those homegrown mushrooms became the very first listing on a platform that would eventually host nearly 1 million users. Launching it was its own puzzle. He could not advertise. The whole point was invisibility. So he slipped onto enthusiast forums and casually mentioned the site as though he were just a curious customer, never the founder, planting the name and letting curiosity do the rest. It worked. Orders trickled in, then poured in. Other sellers arrived with their own listings, and the catalog exploded far beyond anything he had personally grown. He took a small cut of every transaction. He added a review system so strangers could trust strangers, the same way they would on any ordinary shopping site. And as the money rolled in, so did the attention, and not all of it was friendly. His own girlfriend grew uneasy as the products got harder and the buyers got bolder. She asked him what would happen if someone died from a tainted batch. He pointed to his beloved rating system, insisting bad sellers would be exposed and avoided. She cut through it with a single question he could not really answer. How does a dead customer leave a review? That tension never resolved, an early sign of how far the thing had drifted from the clean dream in his head. Then the press found it. A few articles became dozens, then television segments, and suddenly the secret marketplace was a national conversation. Each new headline brought a flood of new users, and behind the scenes, an expanding circle of agencies began trying to figure out who was running the whole operation. They assumed it would be nearly impossible. The anonymity tools were doing exactly what they were designed to do. How do you arrest a ghost? To cope with the growth, he hired help from inside his own user base, people who shared his politics and felt they were part of a movement rather than a crime. He adopted a borrowed alias, taken from a film, the name of a feared figure that was secretly passed from one person to the next over the years. It was a clever choice because it gave him a built-in defense. If he were ever cornered, he could claim he had simply handed the title off to someone else and walked away. The persona made him feel powerful and, for a while, untouchable. His paper fortune climbed into the tens of millions, stored as digital coins on small drives hidden around his apartment. He told a confidant that he wanted to be worth $1 billion before he turned 30, and for a brief, surreal moment, it actually looked possible. He once realized the value flowing through his site rivaled the entire economy of a small country. But there were reminders, brutal ones, that this was not a game. Young people overdosed. At least one took a synthetic substance ordered as easily as a paperback and, in a state of total panic, suffered a horrifying fall. The convenience he was so proud of had a body count, and no rating system could undo it. His undoing, in the end, came not from a master detective, but from a patient tax investigator who liked to read everything 3 times and approach problems from odd angles. He asked a simple question almost no one else had bothered with. Who was the very first person to mention this site online, back before anyone knew what it was? A few careful searches surfaced an early forum post, then another, all tied to the same handle that had been quietly promoting the marketplace at the exact moment it launched. Buried in that trail was a slip, an ordinary personal email address with a real name inside it. From there, the threads multiplied, anti-government writings under that name. A coding question about the anonymity tool, posted under his real identity and then hastily changed a minute later, as though he had caught his own mistake. Meanwhile, separate investigators had quietly seized the actual server and found it had been given the same odd nickname as the suspect's own computer. When the tax man said that nickname out loud on a call, the room went silent. The pieces snapped together. The mastermind they had been chasing for years had been undone by small, human carelessness, the digital equivalent of a forgotten parking ticket. They could not simply rush him, though. They needed to catch him with his machine open and unlocked before he could seal away the encrypted evidence. So, on an ordinary afternoon in a public library, undercover agents staged a loud distraction nearby. He turned toward the noise. In that instant, his laptop was snatched away and the cuffs were on before he could react. Inside that open machine was everything: years of messages, a running journal of the whole empire, even chat logs in which he had agreed to pay for killings to protect his operation. Killings that, it turned out, had all been elaborate scams that never actually happened. The trial drew supporters who called him a hero and insisted he had merely run a website. The jury saw it differently and convicted him on every charge. He wrote to the judge begging for some light at the end of the tunnel. She gave him life without parole, hoping to warn off anyone tempted to follow him. It did not work. Clones appeared almost immediately, many of them flying the very same borrowed name. His dream of a market that outlived its founder did, in a twisted way, come true. The hidden economy he helped unleash is still out there, just beneath the surface, waiting for the next believer with a laptop and a cause.